All right, let's talk about home rule. One of the greatest things about Georgia, Georgia is probably one of the best states for this home rule concept, or at least it was. When the first counties were formed, they made the counties so a person could drive from the furthest farm to a center of population and home in a single day. So we have all these counties that are smaller. The people there are very different. Believe it or not, people in Hall County are different than what they are in Forsyth County. Different than what they are in Union County or Dawson or Lumpkin. And it's a wonderful thing. It's like federalism at the federal level, or what it was supposed to be. Every state was different. So people could do tests and try things. This completely eviscerates home rule. And there are going to be lawsuits. I spoke to people today. Lawsuits are coming up, and they're going to file suit before this even goes to vote, probably. Okay? So it's just going to be a nightmare in that regard. The reason home rule is destroyed, number one, is because you can't opt out. And almost everything else, except for taxation for the most part, a county can't opt out. Okay? A county can opt out, except for taxation if you read the Constitution. But the way the Constitution of Georgia reads, you can't tax across county lines. Okay? And that's what this does, basically, taxing in a huge region. So what happens? When it comes to roads, when it comes to building things, eminent domain and stuff like that, every county, since Georgia became, has developed ordinances and laws, as it's grown. Forsyth County's eminent domain laws and ordinances are different now than what they were in 1996. The region doesn't have those. There's absolutely none, and to this day, with the lawyers that I work with, we cannot find language where a county has standing to stop Georgia DOT from doing something that the citizens of that county dislike. There's nothing. Your county commissioners can't go to take legal recourse if they wanted to take and drive a road right through the center of subdivisions that the people were just upset about. Or let's say that everyone in Hall County doesn't want 129 widened. Okay? If Georgia DOT wants to do that, they will do it. And tell me how that's home rule. If everyone in Hall County doesn't want to do it, but yet they can shove it down your throat. The new entity has power of eminent domain. I'm not convinced that that's anything to be very scared about right now, except for one-off instances that you will find across the state. I don't believe, looking at your projects, that you have to worry about eminent domain in Hall County. We do have to worry about eminent domain in Forsyth County, but you're really not worried about that. And that's only on one project, which is never going to get funded anyway. So we're out of there. And when I say police power, I don't mean that there's going to be guys in, body armor driving in Humvees. What I'm saying is they have the full authority to make the decisions for these TIA. The Georgia Department of Transportation has full authority. They're going to tell you they're going to work with your commissioners. But if inflation is picking up, tax collections aren't going to be where they think they're going to be, and they decide to cancel a project, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Even if it's a project you all wanted. If you wanted US 11 and 129 totally repaved to White County, if Georgia DOT says that's not going to happen, you don't get it to happen. So why did you pay the money? That's my point. What's the impact? The impact is really no different than a T-Splost, except that it doesn't tax motor gasoline. Okay? And it seems to me people driving on the roads and the trucks and everything like that are the ones who actually use the roads. They probably should be paying. And I will tell you that it is Department of Transportation's belief that a 20-cent increase in motor fuel gasoline would get them more money, and the people who break up the roads would be the ones that pay for it. But I spoke to my state rep and a bunch of them down at the State House and at my county convention. The politicians aren't going to do it because they know that Georgians hate to have fuel taxes go up. So if they raised your taxes on fuel, you'd vote them out of office. That's the only reason they did it this way. Because that was on the table, to raise the motor use fuel tax. Motor use fuel tax is an average right now in the state of Georgia, about 21.2 cents per gallon of taxes. That raises close to $1 billion a year. Okay? If they increase, and that's a combination of excise taxes at the depot and sales taxes at the pump. If they just increased that motor use fuel tax another 20 cents, we'd still be like 40% of the states in the United States at that level, and it would give them $1 billion guaranteed. Another $1 billion. But they know people get upset. It's a political hot issue, fuel prices, so that's why they didn't do it. However, if you're driving to buy groceries, you're elderly or single mom or something like that, you're going to be paying the taxes on that, even though you may only drive 7 miles a week. You probably would have been better off paying in gas tax. All right, now let's talk about voter disenfranchisement. And this is the one that actually upsets me the most, because I assume everyone in here is a Republican, believes in Republican values. Maybe not, but Republican values mean that we all live in a small enclave where we elect people to make decisions for ourselves. Okay, so when we elect a state rep, he's supposed to go down there and in that district represent our needs, wants, and desires, and to vote like that. That's what a Republic is. It is totally anti-Republican to turn a vote like this over to the mob. They're turning it over to about 800,000 people to vote. And the mob will vote for something and do something to their neighbor that an individual would never do if he walked up to his neighbor. The mob will vote to increase your taxes and your debt on your head, but would you go to your neighbor and say, hey, I'm voting to increase your taxes and putting more debt on your head? This whole voter disenfranchised thing here, I believe, it actually violates the U.S. Constitution and it violates the Georgia Constitution, because both of those constitutions guarantee us a Republican form of government. This is not a Republican form of government. The largest percentage of voter turnout is in Forsyth Hall and Union. That's 51,390 votes in the 2010 primary, or 60% of this entire region. If 66% of the voters in all the other, 66% of the voters in all the other counties must vote no to turn this down, or vote yes if they want it, but we don't want it. And that's the quandary. There's no, it's too difficult for people to get what they want, to get the voice of the voters. Yeah. If you look at the 2010 primary numbers that come right off the Secretary of State's information, that is the numbers. But we're not the worst region, but we're pretty close. Because I will tell you, if Forsyth Hall and Union vote 72%, there's nothing that any other county can do about it. Nothing. They're going to get it shoved down their throat whether they wanted it, or they're going to lose it if they wanted it. You know, vice versa. That's just not the way it should be. Now, as I said before, it is government's right and their job to do infrastructure. And there is a money problem. The money problem is not because they're collecting $1 billion from fuel. It's because they've started so much stuff, they don't have the people to do it, that now they find themselves in a real pickle. Because they do have a shortage of workers, actually. And I'll get into that now. Those of these jobs are going to be heavy construction jobs. Okay? At the height of since the height of the housing bubble crash in July of 2006, the state of Georgia lost 11,236 heavy construction workers. That's right from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay? None of this stuff is made up like me. So it is the intention, if they're not going to hire people from outside the state, that the state of Georgia intends on spending, what was the number there it looked like for 10 years? What did I say it was going to be? $14 billion over 10 years. They're going to spend $14 billion to hire 11,236 people. And a lot of those people are probably back to work anyway. What somebody do it fair? Is that 1.6 million per employee? It's ridiculous. Now, you're never going to get back what you collected unless you're stealing money from another county, okay? Because there's that $12 million cost. So that $12 million cost, you're not going to get that back. And you know that you're discretionary, you get 5.45% less on that. But your TIA might be able to make that up if you can come up with another $77 million. The fact of the matter is, there's a high probability. I already know what projects in Forsyth County is going to have. That number for Forsyth County, we're probably going to be down around 56%, or excuse me, 26% instead of 31% that you saw on that and what we get back. And I'll tell you the one project. Does anyone drive down 400 through Forsyth County? Mm-hmm. They've got in our projects, to start on the third year, widening 400 from the Fulton County line to the coming 20. They've got it listed that we're going to receive $40 million. The problem is the cost is $73 million. And I already know that Fulton County took a poll, 87% are against toll lanes, and SRTA has already said to us they will never widen 400 unless it's tolls. So what's going to happen is we got to come up with $33 million if we want 7 miles widened in Forsyth County. So all those people in Forsyth County, they're going to leave from Keithbridge Road, drive on a 3-lane highway widened, and then come to the Fulton County line and sit in traffic faster for a longer period of time. It's exactly what's going to happen. What is the solution? I've talked about a couple of them. Cut costs at the GOT, they have done that. Be fair with them. They've reduced about 2.6%. They've had retirements. I'm not sure if they had like massive layoffs and stuff like that. I think they just held back on hirings and they had retirements. We talked about the mix of excise and fuel taxes to the muffed. But here's the last one, which most of the Republican legislators down under the House, and I've met with them. It's called HB 938, Repeal and Replace with Home Rule, T-Splost. That's the title of it. Ed Setzler, a Congress district state rep from Cobb County, came up with this. He voted for T-Splost, okay? But he recognized everybody's arms were twisted to do it. He recognizes it's a problem. And what does this bill do? This bill is exactly right, even though I would still vote against it. What it does is it will essentially, it modifies the T-Splost laws from the early 30s, the early 80s, the T-Splost law, and it allows you now to do a T-Splost in your county for 1%. And it also extends that where your county commissioners can work with a bordering county commissioner to pool funds so that you can build projects across county lines using the tax dollars. It's not unconstitutional. It's still the 1% sales tax. I believe his does tax motor gasoline. Okay, so you're going to get that kind of money that we talked about there. I am personally voting no on T-Splost, and I'm doing it primarily for the voter disenfranchisement thing, number one. And number two, I recognize that during the 2000 time, during Sonny Perdue's tenure, there was an outcry among cities, small towns, counties, that there wasn't enough money to do projects for roads and bridges and sidewalks and stuff. So the legislature tried to do the best they could. I don't know if my number is right, but I think 359 people were on the board to develop the original projects. 2 elected officials from every county. In my county, it was Brian Tam, a commissioner from my district, District 2, and Mayor Ford Gravitt from Cumming. And what they did was they just went through and came up with lists and lists of things to be done, and it slowly got whittled down until they got to the constrained project list that they have now. And that's how it came about. And then they had to come up with the funding. And it got into a big fight. The Democrats didn't like it. I mean, the Republicans didn't like it. The Democrats really liked it. And they couldn't get enough Democrats to vote for the Republican plan, so Sonny Perdue threw up his hand and said, fine, let them do it by region. And that's how you got it. That's how you got it. It's actually, I firmly believe, based on my discussions with them, if the Republicans had the votes, they would have repealed this. They would have ripped it out just as quick and easily as they could. In my heart, and I have no proof, I believe the Republican legislatures want this to fail across the state. They really do. It would really be a slap in the face to Democrats if this got turned down.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Freeze in full effect.